As always, today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities, makers of reliable, all-American steel fire training structures built the way you train. Fire Facilities towers, burn rooms, and mobile units help you prepare to respond and survive. Welcome back to 3 Point Firefighter. Today, I'm honored to have a fire facilities representative here, Mr. John Schauf. And John is a central regional manager and knows an awful lot about fire facilities. But before I let you talk, Mr. Schauf, I want to tell you about your product because you probably don't know this. It's awesome. I love burning in fire facilities buildings. I've always loved it before I even met Aaron Adams. And every time I've gone to a fire facility, burn tower, it's always like so much more on the inside than you see from the outside. The outside obviously is nice, beautiful. I love it. If you were to put a gun to my head and make me pick a model right now, it would be the Captain. I love the Captain. Just love it. Then after that, probably the Lieutenant. But anyway, I digress. Every time I go into these, of course, I work with the training officer there, and they brag on it. And then they tell me the stuff that they do to personalize it. Now, I have a training tower too. I'm not fortunate enough to have a fire facilities, but I love being able to personalize my tower for my needs, right? But they don't have to do as much as I do, but they like that too. They like that there's so much flexibility with their towers. Now, that's me bragging on it, right? So I'll tell you a quick little story too. So how I came to be associated with Fire Facilities Incorporated, I was in, I believe it was Washington State. And we were there for a 1403 class, me and my partner. And we're doing our before our day one, we're getting used to the whole training grounds and figuring out what we're going to do. I walk into a fire facilities building. I look at Bill and I say, man, it's a fire facilities building. I love these buildings. He says, yeah, me too. Well, they took the door off of something. And I don't know where this door came from because it had all the doors on it, but there was a door laying against the wall, and it had fire facilities on it. That's what I was pointing to. Not 2 seconds later, when I did that, my phone dings. And I look at my phone. Hand to God, this happened. I look at my phone, and it's Aaron Adams connecting with me on LinkedIn. And I look at Bill. I said, dude, you're not going to believe this. He heard us. And so I showed him, and it was Aaron Adams, of fire facilities, linking in. And so me and Aaron got hooked up, and I told him that story. I don't know if he believes me, but that is absolutely the truth. I wish I had I kept some pictures or something of that because it was really weird. Now, John, I bored you with my story. I apologize for that. But tell me what you do for fire facilities and how long you've worked there.
Well, thanks for your story. I'm dying to know which tower you're at. I've been with fire facilities for 20 years. This April will be my anniversary for 20 years at the company. Started there in 2003. Was recruited by them back in 2000 and didn't jump on board right away because I wanted to do some research. I had the opportunity to be in some training facilities, and of course, where I'm from, we do a lot of acquired structures. At least we used to. I'm of a certain age where, and those of us that are around my tenure can tell you, acquired structures were the way a lot of us did our training when we got outside the original fire academy. So I wanted to know more about fire facilities, and it took me a little while before I finally agreed to come on board with them in 2003, and it's been a great ride ever since. So back when I started, we ran coast to coast, and so I'd have the opportunity to work with fire departments far and wide. We're based out of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. We're an American manufacturer. We've always taken a lot of pride in that. Not only do we manufacture as an American company, but we also source our raw materials from American suppliers. So we use American steel. That's huge to me. And I think a lot of our customers really would be shocked to know where their stuff comes from when they get just anything for training. So to me, that's very important. But we had an opportunity to work coast to coast for a while. And then as the company continued to grow, we saw the need to bring on additional people and kind of specialize in our territories and our regions. I'm from Wisconsin. My background is in fire and EMS and a short stint in public safety diving. So it made sense for me to kind of be based here in the central U.S., and that's my current role.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of changes in the fire towers and over those years, right?
Absolutely. One of the things, probably the biggest thing in the 20 years that I've been with fire facilities, is that early on, when people started publishing their budgets online, the internet was kind of a new and cool thing for a lot of people 25, 30 years ago, or maybe not quite 30, but I'll say 25 to the last 20. And when I started, we were starting to see people publish their annual budgets, and they would have ridiculous amounts of money for what they would spend to update and refurbish their burn rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And our company decided we got to do something to make this better. And so in 2003, we introduced our new system called WestTech, and it was provided with a 15-year warranty, and nobody else had anything close to that. The only warranty in the business was 1 year, and it was topped out at about 1,200 degrees. And we
15 years warranty on your WestTech?
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
15 years, and then they also, independent engineers had gone through and tested this. I believe they were from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. They were involved in putting the new WestTech system through its paces to try to determine what are its limitations. And they decided, it's rated up to 1,850 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, as a firefighter, I got really concerned about that because I understand the turnout gear that we wear is not intended to protect us at that extreme temperature. So we've always taken the safety approach, and that's always been a huge approach from the company, is to provide a safe, controlled environment that you can provide a variety of different training evolutions. But that became our standard back after the 2004, started around 2004 season. WestTech became our standard offering for all of our towers. Initially, it was offered as an alternative to the Maronite board that everybody was familiar with, and many still are. But it became our standard, and I've got customers that have exceeded the lifespan of their warranty, and they're still going strong, and they haven't had any issues with them. So with a little bit of proper due diligence, it's a great system.
I agree. You just touched on something. Another reason I love fire facilities, not just an American company with American sourced materials. They have a lot of firefighters working for them, right? Like Aaron,
nice.
He is a firefighter. You're a firefighter. You have other firefighters working for you. So it's not like you're just making something that you think a firefighter might use. You actually know what you need. And that really kind of rolls right into all the different models you have. So can you tell me, I pulled up right now, firefacilities.com. I told you my favorite, the Captain. If I could wave a magic wand right now, I would have a Captain. So do you have a particular favorite?
I got to be honest. I fell in love with the Captain when I first started with fire facilities back in 2003. There was one particular tower that I had in mind, and that was the tower that existed, and it's still there, in Pearland, Texas, on the south side of Houston. And I looked at that and I said, that is the perfect tower for me. That's what I want, was the Pearland Tower design. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different customers and different ideas on what they want for training. And of course, I can't help but like the commissioner model for all the things that it offers. When I first started doing a lot of work with departments, we would take our then largest tower was called the Fire Chief, and we had nomenclature that the engineering used and common names that we would refer to, and we kind of walked in both languages or spoke both languages. So that if somebody got a set of drawings and they'd have a WH4, well, it started like an open floor plan, and then you'd add burn rooms, you'd add movable partition mazes, maybe some a Denver drill, a variety of different training props, and I could stuff a lot of stuff into there, but it wasn't everything for everybody, and there is no one size fits all. And I found that there's been a lot of comfort with those that departments that can afford to get a larger tower with that commissioner, because it is kind of it checks all the boxes and a few others that they didn't know that they wanted until after they had the tower. So I too fell in love with the Captain model. Right now, for a mid-sized tower, a great bang for the buck, in my opinion, if you got a small footprint, is the Division Chief. It's set up with a 9-foot floor-to-floor spacing. It has a 2-story with a maze, and I can configure it with a removable shaft down through the center of the tower. I can add burn rooms, a lot of different features to it. But for a compact tower, the division chief offers a lot of bang for the buck. And the lieutenant, if you go through our list of different towers, we've done about 700 plus towers in the 31 plus years that we've been in business. And there's a lot of lieutenant models out there because it also, every one of our towers has the capability of doing live fire. Mm-hmm. Class A burn rooms. You can make Class B if your department wants to do a combination thereof. We can do a Class A room, have a second room that's Class B. So we're able to work with you that way, and we can do a multiple evolutions of provide you with drawings and have your committee review them and decide what's going to work best for you. Because again, it's not a one size fits all. But
so you brought up the lieutenant. I want to jump on something real quick. Mm-hmm. This is something I really like. Now, my experience in the fire service is burn buildings usually they don't last very long. They really don't. I mean, for the amount of money that you can pay for them, I've seen them maybe 15 years is a good, like where it's still a functional. Now, the building may be there, but here's what you hear all the time. Well, we can't burn that anymore. So the structure's still there, but the main reason you got it isn't. So you mentioned the lieutenant, and I want to jump on this real quick. Now, there's quite a few places that are celebrating 20 years with the lieutenant, right? I think that says an awful lot. I've got a couple names of them. One is right down the street from me in Jasper, Indiana. Also, Wellsville Fire Department in New York. You got North Carolina. You got Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Palmetto, Florida. All these places have the lieutenant. Also in Arizona. So what I'm getting at a little bit here is I'm seeing a lot of different climates, right? I see a lot of different elevations. And mm-hmm. I'm seeing that the lieutenant is easily hitting 20 years. So what do you attribute that particular thing to?
Well, our structures are really over-engineered. And I don't say that to mean disrespectful to the guys that do the design work. It makes it a lot easier for me to do my job because they will withstand the test of time, the harsh realities of Mother Nature. Even you talk about those towers are all around the 20-year mark, and I cut my teeth working with some of those departments. North River Fire District in Palmetto, Florida. Probably one of the most interesting photos I ever received from a fire department of their training was their particular tower one day, because I'd mentioned to the chief that I'd love to get some photographs of them using their tower. And again, this is 20 years ago. They had everything going on, and maybe we can put the picture up later of that particular tower, but they had live fire going on in the Class A burn room. They were doing rappelling off the tower. They had an aerial involved in doing a pick-off with a Stokes basket and laddering on the structure with ground ladders. So a little bit of everything going on that tower that is relatively compact. And, it does check all the boxes, and it offers a lot of versatility. When it comes to how they're designed, every tower gets designed specifically for that location. So the engineers are going to look at soils reports to find out, okay, what are your existing conditions at your site. But in addition to that, they're checking wind loads. What are your codes stating for designated wind loads, for example? Do you have seismic considerations? We've got towers that sit on the San Andreas Fault. We've got towers close to the Sandwich Fault line in Illinois. We've got some towers that are sitting right smack dab where there's definitely going to be, and there has been natural conditions that have impacted them. If I can back up a step, we talk about age. 2 of our oldest towers were both shipped within weeks of each other. One went to Fairhope, Alabama, on the coast, on the Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And the other one went to Traverse City, Michigan. And so they were within weeks of each other.
That's two totally different.
Yeah. The northern climates, the southern climates.
Yeah.
And both those towers are still in operation today. How often each gets used may vary from one department to the next, but I really think it's, to me, the tower itself is very durable from the ground up. It's been engineered to be a training tower. We didn't take a structure that was used for something else. When the original founders of the company sat down with the engineers at our company, they said, let's come up with a tower for fire training, and it's got to be able to do these things. And they knew right away they wanted to use structural steel. And that's a huge thing that sets us apart from everybody else, is that they're using all metal, but not structural steel. And the structural steel gives us unlimited potential as far as height, strength, etc. So we can do a lot of things that you can't do with cold rolled steel.
Right. Now, I believe, first off, I'm going to Pearland, Texas in about 3 weeks to burn in that very building that you're talking about. So I'm looking forward to that. And last year, I was in Arizona, Sierra Vista, Arizona. And we pull up at night, me and my partner, and they have, I think it's the trainee, okay, the one story with 4 doors and everything. So I look at it and I'm like, cool, fire facility is good, but it was 1 story. And this is what I'm going to tell you my first impression. I was like, that looks kind of small, but I think we can make it work. Go in and we start talking to the guys. We got there late, so we didn't get to go walk into the training room, the burn tower that night. Come back the next morning before class. And their training chief, Caleb Mousey's fantastic dude, takes us into the trainee. Now I'm walking, it's daylight, and I'm still looking. I'm like, that's still a little small to me. He opens that door, and the way that thing is laid out on the inside, it looks gigantic. And they had 4 different burn rooms. They had multiple doors. They had high-rise ceilings. They had a roof prop. And that's not even the best part. So I look at it, and we go through, we plan everything. And I said, hey, Chief, when'd you get this? He goes, oh, it's been here for I don't remember the exact time, but it was like over 20 years, like almost 30 years, I think. It was a long time they've had it. It didn't look it. There was 0 chance you would have thought that was an older tower. And then it gets better from there. So we're there for 3 days, and we're going in, we're setting up, and the training goes really, really well. And one of the things I loved about the trainee model was my line of sight, right? So I could see everybody, depending on where I moved, I could see everything going on, which as a training officer, I truly love. That way I don't have to get up next to them and maybe bottleneck or anything. I can let them do their thing, and I've got a perfect view. So he told me, he goes, we're getting ready to add on to this. I said, oh, you're going to get a new one? He goes, no, we're going to add on to this. They make these where you can just add on to them. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. With the structural steel, going on and adding on to it horizontally is certainly easy. And we've even taken structures and given new life to older concrete masonry towers that were otherwise told no longer deemed safe for live fire. And they could continue to use them for search and rescue, but they needed a new live burn portion of the tower. And so we could take and connect up to existing concrete and masonry if it's something that still has usable lifespan to it. And if the day comes when they have to tear down the masonry portion of the building, you still have your steel structure. When I first started back 20 years ago, we had a customer in the St. Louis area. And I'll tell you, not everybody can go vertical, but in their case, they could. They built a fire chief model, 4-story tower, 2-story residential, gabled roof. The department wanted to add some height to it, and they wanted an entire 3rd floor where the attic was on the tower. The engineers did the calculations, and again, it depends on where you're at, your soil conditions, and so forth. They were able to add an entire 3rd floor where their attic once was and change the entire layout. So they took another model of ours called the hall crawler that is set up kind of like a taxpayer, where it's got multiple entrances, burn rooms, 1st floor, 2nd floor, designed to be a more confusing layout called the hall crawler. But it's a 2-story structure. They took that layout and made it the 2nd and 3rd floor of this. It's a 4-story tower with a 3-story, what we refer to as residential section. And then about every 10 years, that department comes back and they look and see what do we want to do different. They'll put a committee together, and then they'll contact us and say, we've got some ideas. Can we meet? Can we talk about it? And a lot of times we travel out to the site, and this is where I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of different towers. So it's not uncommon for us to reconfigure burn rooms as their budgets allow, because that's always the biggest holdback for a lot of departments. If you're fortunate enough to get a training tower, and I know I'm a little bit biased, but if you're smart enough to get a fire facilities training tower, you'll have the ability to adapt that tower to your future needs, because things change. I've been around long enough. I've seen major changes in the fire service as to how we approach fire. Conventional wisdom sometimes has been set aside, and now we're looking at new ways of fire attack. And every department responds a little bit differently in their attack and their approach. And it's always a good idea to try to simulate some of your fire district's response characteristics. So whether it's a setback from a curb to how close you can get to the structure, we've got a department out in New York that even has landscaping in front of their tower. Beautiful landscaping. It's well manicured, and I wondered if the guy could come and take care of my lawn, knowing full well that these firemen are not easy on the landscaping. But they put bushes out in front of the windows, just like you might have at your house.
That's amazing.
And you know, those are the kinds of things that, yeah, it's a little bit more maintenance to keep that kind of stuff up on the outside. But they wanted to make it look realistic to a residential setting. And I've had customers out in California that I've worked with that on one side of the structure looks a little residential, on the other side it's very much a commercial type setup. So there's a lot of variance in that.
And that's probably my favorite thing. That's not my favorite thing. My favorite thing probably, like I said, is how it's built in the steel, American, blah, blah, blah. We know this. If you're not buying American, you're not doing it right. So another thing I really like about fire facilities is its flexibility. So we've talked about several models, and we still haven't even covered all the models. So let me throw this out at you. I've got some money. I got a little bit of money, and I want a fire facilities tower. And I've looked at your website, and I'm the kind of guy that I'm like, I like all this stuff, but I want something just for me. Am I able to get a hold of you and say, listen, I don't want the chief. I don't want the trainee. I don't want this. I want to make one from the ground up. Can fire facilities do that?
Yeah, we do a lot of custom work. It's always obviously economy of scale. So if we can stay within certain parameters, we can manage your costs a little bit better. And there's really two ways people approach these types of projects. And I would get calls from guys that say, you know what, I was tasked by the chief to get some numbers, and I have a meeting with him in an hour. Can you help me? So I've got my cheat sheets of, well, you know, for this amount of money, I could probably put you in this model, you know, with additional changes that we can kind of do cafeteria style later. But if you want to do something very custom, you can do that. And we've got examples of some projects that we've done that way. Usually when you start getting real custom, depending upon the size, you're just adding size, and your cost gets associated with the size of the structure that you're building. We don't charge extra for customization. You're just buying the materials, whether it's, and the same thing, if you started out, I've got some examples of customers. We have a customer in Wasilla, Alaska that I've worked with, and in Wasilla, they really liked our fire chief model. It's a 4-story tower, but they only needed a 3-story version of it. So they asked us, can you do a shorter, you know, to customize it for my needs? And it's our standard models top out at a 4-story version, but I have more 5-story towers that have been built in the last 5 years than I think I've done in the past 15 before it. So there's a more interest, I think, in additional height. A lot of departments are using it for candidate physical agility testing, and then continued fitness for duty. So they'll do, you know, their testing every year, and hey, you know, John, you're slipping a little bit on your numbers. You know, maybe you up your physical fitness and that type of thing. So, but going back to, you know, can I do a customized structure? Absolutely. And we can work with a budget where you come and say, I have X number of dollars. What can we do with it? Or oftentimes we'll get the call of, here's my needs list, and I want a minimum of 2 burn rooms. I don't have to have gas props, but if I want it, I would like that option. So we can draw it up, no charge to the fire department. I think that's one of the things. A lot of people get intimidated by working on this project in the front line. And we talk about expense all the time when it comes to different things in the fire service. And if you think about the kind of money you would spend on your frontline engine, and you replace that, what, every 10 years? Or sometimes they move them into the back row after 5. I guess it depends on the department and what their protocols are. But, you know, it's comparable in cost to something that you're in a fire engine you're going to replace or set back into the back row after 10 years, and you're wanting to get a lot longer life. And people ask me, well, what is the life expectancy of these towers? And I have towers that I have no concerns about them going 40 or 50 years with minimal maintenance and upkeep.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So I told you I've got money and I want this custom tower. And then I opened up my purse and I realized I didn't have any money. So what kind of funding support is available?
Well, there are different grant resources out there. And if you contact your fire facilities representative, we have 3 different representatives that cover the entire U.S., whether in East, Central, or in the West. And if you contact our office at 800-929-3726 or go to our website, you'll have access to your consultants for East, Central, and West. And then you can reach out to them and talk to them a little bit more about what some of the costs might be. And also when it comes to financing, we can help hook you up with some people that work with municipal financing. So you can do a lease to own program. You can pay for your tower over the next 10 years instead of having to have all the money up front. And so it might allow you to get into a tower that you get your needs and wants. But I talk to people all the time. I say, you really need to be thinking about how you're going to be using this tower 10 years from now, not just what you need today, because you have a life expectancy of this tower that's going to probably exceed your tenure with the department. You want to be thought of well when you leave. So let's build a good structure that is going to have a lot of life and the ability to be repurposed as needed. And sometimes that may entail somebody looking at financing a training facility. So that's another option that you do have.
Now, what can you tell me about the HGAC buy program?
Oh, I love HGAC buy. And having worked in the southern states throughout my entire 20 years with fire facilities, years ago, I'd get asked by chiefs all the time, why aren't you on HGAC? If you were on the HGAC program, it would streamline my purchasing process because HGAC does the vetting for the municipalities. So instead of having to go out and advertise for bids, HGAC's already done that. They've done the hard work for you. And so you can spec out your structure, whether it's a captain or a fire chief model or a lieutenant. They're all on the HGAC program. They're offered as line items in their catalog, as are many of the features. And if you get into the customization that you and I were talking about, because you want to put your fingerprint on it, the Jake Barnes model, then
love it.
When it comes to that, if there's some customization, HGAC even allows a certain percentage of open market items that maybe it wasn't predetermined because the burner is a certain size, or you have some custom feature that maybe isn't in our everyday catalog, because we don't limit ourselves. I tell guys, if there's something that you want and you don't see it on our website or in our catalog, call and ask, because there's a good chance we've done it for somebody. In the 700 plus towers we've built, or the thousands that we've designed that are in because there's towers already that have been laid out and designed, and those departments are just waiting for the right mix, whether it's the local leaders to approve their project. And it's not uncommon for me to work with a training officer who eventually becomes the fire chief, and then he gets his fire training tower built. And I've even got some chiefs that have retired from one department show up in another state after retirement gets a little bit, I don't know, maybe tired of the retirement gig and decides he wants to go back to work. And they've shown up again back at these conferences, and we start talking about another training tower. It's pretty common for me to have repeat customers because they've enjoyed the process and they love the towers, and they know that we've got that history.
I'll tell you right now, I've burned in a lot of them. And not only for me as a training officer and a live fire instructor, there's none better. The saying of like everybody's fighting for, the second position. Nobody's fighting for the second position because fire facilities got first, second, third, fourth, all sewn up. And they really do. And again, you have firefighters that work for you. So I'm not talking to somebody that's a salesperson. I'm talking to a brother or a sister. I'm somebody I can trust. The company's ran by brother Aaron Adams, who can talk the talk and walk the walk. He's not going to sell you, and he's going to give you what you need. I love everything about it. I'm super proud to be part of the Fire Facilities family. I appreciate your time tonight. I do want everybody to go to, and I'll put it in the description, firefacilities.com. And this is my challenge to you. I want you to go under the models and pick your favorite model. And I want you to put down in the comments your favorite model. If you could get anything you wanted, and if it's custom, let me know what you want custom. Put them down in the comments. We're going to find out what everybody's favorite is. Now, before I go, I've got one suggestion that I would like you to take to Aaron Adams, okay? I would like very much for you, whatever paperwork has to be done, is I want to change the fire chief and the probie. I want to change the names. So now the probie is the big one and fire chief is the littler one. That's just, maybe he won't do it. I don't know. He looks like Kurt Russell, by the way. Have you noticed that?
I've heard that said. I have heard that said.
There's not a time I've seen him that I haven't gone, yeah, you're Kurt Russell from Backdraft.
Well, and one of the things I tell people is the training officers and the fire chiefs have probably two of the most thankless jobs in the fire service, and they're most underappreciated people. So thank you for your dedication to training, Jake. I know it's
absolutely
a big part of what you do, and it's close to my heart as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Brother, I've enjoyed this time. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day and a great night.
Thank you, Jake. Same to you.
Stay safe, brother.
Be good.
Our podcast today was sponsored by Fire Facilities. This Made in America company is dedicated to constructing top quality custom training structures to meet your needs. Make your training count with all steel structures that are made to last. Visit firefacilities.com for more details.